to everyone joining us this evening. Whether you've been rocking with DMs with PM from day one, or it's your very first time tuning in, we're very happy that you're here. We'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to all of our sponsors who continue to support this dialogue and its development. This gratitude goes out to Power FM, Star FM, We FM, GBN, Fusion FM, Vibes FM, and GIS. Remember our number, 423-3104, to direct your questions to the PM later on. My name is Shiloh Alexander, but of course I'm not here alone. Tariq Miller is right here with me.
Hey, good night.
Before we turn our attention to the man whose reputation precedes him, Tariq, we forgot to do something very, very important last time around.
Yes, we did.
We forgot to allow you all to get to know a little bit more about us. Yeah.
So, good evening, listeners and viewers. My name is Tariq Miller. I am the Youth MP for St. David and a passionate educator. And I just like trying new things as a means of challenging myself. And Shiloh?
Well, let's see. A singer, a writer, someone who is passionate about mental wellness and youth empowerment, a biology university student with hopes of becoming a neuropsychologist, 17 years old, Shiloh Alexander. Now, Prime Minister, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening to you and Tariq. Good to have you guys back. And since this is your second time, I hope you get to enjoy yourself on the program. And I'm happy the viewers have gotten to know a little bit about who our wonderful co-hosts are this afternoon.
So. Well, yes, of course. We're very happy to be back. And Prime Minister, last week, we actually had a caller who reached out for some assistance. And this is a thank you note from Miss Rena Thomas. She said, "Thank you, Mr. Hector, for reaching out and for your concern. And thanks to Prime Minister and his team on DMs with PM for taking me as I am and ensuring that I am taken care of. Words are not enough to express my gratitude to the PM and his team, and you, Mr. Hector. Family and friends failed me, but the Prime Minister didn't. Thank God for this humble gentleman."
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Thomas, for your very kind words. But I think the gratitude really goes out to the team who ensured that Mr. Hector was able to reach out to her. And I want to thank Mr. Hector and his team at Adult Teen Challenge because they do an amazing job, particularly working with ex-prisoners and persons who've been in the justice system in terms of ensuring that they can reform and get a second chance or sometimes third or fourth chance at life. So I want to, if you have never heard of Adult and Teen Challenge, I certainly want to encourage our citizens to learn about them, to support them, and to do what we can to ensure that we can help persons who, whether it's their first time or who, for whatever reasons, have found themselves being habitual persons who interface with the law for the wrong reasons, to try and see how we can help them. Because ultimately, if we don't, then we pay the price in more ways that we can think of. Because I actually just came from the funeral of Miss Letty Pulit, Ali, as she's affectionately known. And obviously, the tragic loss of a life is testimony to what happens if we are not able to, at a very early stage, intervene when young men in particular find themselves in positions where they are interfacing with the law at an early age, or where they are exposed to or committing violent acts at a very early age. We've had the very tragic situation, the loss of a life. So it's important, in this case, it's not usual to have a female calling in to say, I've had multiple encounters with the law and I want help. So I'm happy that she recognizes that she needs help. I'm happy that Mr. Hector and his team are going to work with her. And I really do hope that she makes use of this opportunity to reform her life, because I believe she also has a daughter. And obviously she said she wanted to be a better example for her daughter. So thank you to her for the feedback, but we will obviously keep monitoring, and I hope Mr. Hector and his team can do the best with her.
Absolutely, Prime Minister.
So, Prime Minister, we know that you have had a heavy day. As you just now stated, you recently came from the funeral of Alejandro Hippolyte. Intercol is right around the corner.
Yes.
Right? And the environment is already electric. So I want you to be honest with us. Do you have that PBC shirt ironed out and ready for the stadium next week?
Well, I think I'm a PBC boy, so I don't need to have the shirt. I wear PBC in my blood and in my veins. But yeah, I actually just came, I was having a dialogue with my daughter, and she was explaining to me I guess the ritual of what I call the Intercol torch, and the passing of the baton from convent to, I think, J.W. Fletcher, and from Anglican High School to convent. And I was looking at the videos. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's quite a,
it is.
I mean, it's bigger than the Olympic, the passing of the torch. So I was quite taken aback by the amount of effort and energy that's put into it. But it clearly shows that Intercol, I guess, is the greatest show on earth in Grenada. So no doubt, I think we're all excited about what's going to happen next week.
All right, well, I guess you just have to make sure people don't mistake you as a SAS supporter with the blue.
Well, I have empathy for SAS, but I'm not, we'll have some empathy. You always have to put yourself in other shoes, but, ultimately it's PBC all the way. The only reason PBC and GBSS actually wins is because, they're a bigger school and they have more seniors, but if they didn't, I think we know what would happen. So we'll leave that there, though.
Well, Prime Minister, I've got to say, regardless of who you're supporting, non palma sine labore. Great is the GBSS.
But you hate Ciencia.
Well, we'll see what happens come next Thursday and Friday. Thursday, last day.
Okay. Well, here's where we'll break for a short commercial, and we will see you soon.
My name is Liselle Walcott. I am a staff nurse at the General Hospital for the past 16 years. At the Infection Control Department, we do surveillance for communicable diseases or hospital-acquired infections. We do outbreak investigations. So any issues we have, we would investigate it, find out the cause, and we would do recommendations and interventions to all relevant departments. Thus far, with Mount Sinai, we are looking at ways of improving hand hygiene. Hand hygiene has been proven to be one of the most important practice you could do to break the chain of infection. Working along with Mount Sinai, I foresee that it would be a very good thing for us. They are looking into the products that we use, the practices that we do. Going forward, we'll be able to achieve a very high level of compliance and safety across the board for everyone.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. If you're recently joining, don't forget to share the live to your friends, to your family, to your co-workers. Prime Minister, we all beam with pride when we see Kirani James, when we see Anderson Peters, when we see Lyndon Victor on the world stage. But individual greatness shouldn't be left to chance. How do you view the national sports policy bridging this gap between raw talent and the world stage? Or should I rephrase that question and ask, what is a roadmap to ensure we are actively building a system that produces stars rather than just waiting for them?
Well, thank you for the question. Before I answer, I want to emphasize we only talked about the boys, and there's girls as well. So St. David's Catholic Secondary School, I'm the MP for St. David, and that's my home school. Right? I grew up very close to it, so I expect that on the female side of the Intercol, we'd also be taking home the golden trophy. But to your question, I think the fact that we have a sports policy, the fact that we have created the sports councils, parish sports councils, the fact that we are spending an enormous amount of resources upgrading our playing fields, lighting our playing fields, ensuring we have a modern state-of-the-art track at the stadium. There are plans to also put a track in at Progress Park. The fact that we have coaches and physical education teachers, we've had, I think, as many as probably close to 40 in the last year or so, all points to a more systematic program to develop, to spot, develop, and nurture the talent that we have. And so in the past, and that's just from a government perspective, but ultimately it's not just the government. We have a lot of private clubs that nurture a lot of talent, particularly when they get to secondary school. What has to happen, I think, is that we have to be able to make sure that both from the primary, secondary, and then tertiary level, we have a system in place that connects all three. But it's also important for us to appreciate that sports is simply part of education. It's not extracurricular, it's not an aside. And we can't have a situation where our sportsmen and women are not educated, because then you not have a career in sports. To be a professional sports person, you need to be educated. And so it's critical for us to ensure that at the primary school and at the secondary school level, we don't make this mistake of thinking that if you're an athlete, you should not be an academician, or you should not be someone who likes the sciences, or you should not be someone who is interested in technical and vocational education, because if not, your sporting career will come to an end very, very quickly. You just need an injury, for example, and then you're doomed. So for us, we view the careers in sport as a normal, natural part of the broadening of our education system. And that is why we are putting the effort and the resources into the primary school, into the secondary school. That is why we're putting the effort and resources into creating the sports councils, create the sporting policy, and then seeking to upgrade our infrastructure on island. And that's why, for example, you see we've hosted Carifta now twice in 3 years, because we want to be able to give our athletes the exposure. We want to be able to give them the competition. We want them to be spotted by colleges, by universities, etc., so that they can actually get the opportunity to further their education and at the same time get world-class training that is required. So we are in the very early developmental stage. This is perhaps the first year when the sports councils are really functioning and operational. And then we also need the private sector, and I think they've stepped up considerably over the last couple of years to ensure that they support the athletes, they support the events as well. So I think as we develop, we will get to a point where we can review what is working, what is not working, and then be able to strengthen the policies, strengthen the programs, strengthen the training. Nutrition is also a big factor, because to a large extent your performance depends on how healthy you are, and your health depends on what you eat. So also ensuring that within the school system that we can feed our children the right nutrition so that they can perform is also something that is critical. And all the supporting psycho, physiotherapy, etc. that comes with sport, part and parcel of that has to have the mental issues, the toughness, and so on. So holistically, it's going to take some time, but I think we are beginning to be more systematic, and I hope that over time we will be able to produce almost off the chopping block, more Anderson Peters, more Kirani James, almost routinely, like the Jamaicans have been able to do, particularly in sprints and track, so that we don't have a once in every decade appearance at the medal table in the Olympics and World Games.
Thank you.
Well, Prime Minister, as you mentioned, Carifta, I myself am absolutely stoked for it. And guys, if you have not yet gotten your ticket for Carifta, don't walk, run to get it, okay? So as we speak of supporting our athletes, Prime Minister, from working during medal presentations at our national track and field events, I actually see how much pressure our athletes are under. It causes a lot of stress, anxiety, and especially in moments of loss, a lot of disappointment. So I understand that the Honorable Delma Thomas said that plans are underway to ensure that psychological support services and counselors will be provided in all of our schools. But can we see a similar structured system for the psychological support of our athletes? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's a natural extension of it. Most of the track meets occur within the context of the schooling system. You may have additional events or meets that are quasi-private, but to a large extent, most of the athletes are still in school. So I think it's just a question of ensuring that we take a comprehensive and a broad-based approach when we talk about psychosocial, and don't just think about what I call traditional academic approach and the stresses that comes with that. So it's important for the services to be there in a holistic sense. Any school-related activity, may be sport, it may be a quiz, it may be a queen show, or any type of competition where you recognize people under pressure and they have to deliver, particularly in a public setting. You have to be mindful that if people lose, they have to be able to handle it, and they have to understand the lessons from loss and be able to cope with it and make sure that the support is there. So I think what has to happen is I think from day one we have to recognize that sport is really perhaps one of the more crucial tools for preparing you for real world life in a school setting. Usually you require collaboration, you require teamwork, you require consistency, you require discipline, and you have to be able to handle both success and loss. Sometimes success is as devastating as losing, because sometimes when you win, you lose yourself because of the attention, the fame, the ego. You could then become complacent, and easily your success could go downhill. So it's important for us to make sure that our athletes and our students in general appreciate that life will always be a roller coaster. There's always a curve. There are always times when you will win, there are times when you lose, and you have to be able to cope with both of them successfully. So I think it's just a question of extending the support and making sure that we are not, in a sense, locked in purely on the academic pursuits, and that we can extend the services to all of the activities that occur within the confines of the school setting.
So would you say that would also be extended to, like, let's say, coaches in the various clubs to receive the necessary training to know how to support their athletes psychologically?
Sure, that would be crucial because part of being a coach sometimes is not the technical knowledge you impart on the students, but the life lessons, how to cope, how to inspire them, how to motivate, how to keep them disciplined. Because oftentimes a lot of the technical stuff you can learn on your own, and there's obviously a lot of self-learning with the availability of social media and other tools, but discipline, leadership, coping, support mechanisms. I mean, I know for a fact that many of our athletes, aspiring athletes, go to the clubs and go to their coaches because they don't want to go home.
Yeah.
Because the challenges of home or the village or the community is such that coming to the club, coming to the playing field, doing the track, doing the football, the cricket is in fact the escape valve. So many of our coaches already play a significant father role or mother role or auntie or uncle role in the lives of many of our students and our athletes, not just from a technical sense, but actually being part of the extended family. So any training or support or exposure that could be given from a psychosocial support for coaches so that they can be better at their jobs as well would be something, and I think that would be helpful as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because guys, I might not be the best athlete out there, but the coach that I have had in secondary school, I still speak to him regularly, and he was a major part of why I was able to be calm, regulate my emotions in secondary school. So coaches definitely play a big part in the upbringing of a young person.
Absolutely.
Prime Minister, just to add a little bit, mental health, equally important is the physical health of our athletes. Could we see in a not too distant future perhaps a health insurance plan for our athletes? I know, for instance, Jamaica has one that is up and running. Could we see that in the future?
I mean, it's not something I've thought about, but certainly in raising it, I think there are certainly options for it. I mean, insurance in general is an area that's underutilized in Grenada, and it requires perhaps the education industry, Ministry of Finance, economic planning, development to help our population in general understand the usefulness of insurance and what are the various products and services that are available. I mean, we're obviously pursuing a national health insurance just to deal with health in general, but certainly if you play golf, there's golf insurance because the balls tend to get away and can damage people and damage property and so on. So I certainly think it's something, now that we have a National Sports Council and Parish Council, these are some of the things that I think from a policy point of view, we'd expect them to research and perhaps be able to help guide the government in making the right decisions and in supporting some of those initiatives.
We definitely had Lawyer Mitchell speaking there for a moment. Okay, so now we'll go over to the DMs that we received.
Lindsay Mason is asking, I'm saying thank you for the solar lights that was erected along the Plaisance Road. We are seeking only 2 more, if that's possible.
Hi, Lindsay. It may be possible. I think we have a new set of lights, probably give or take roughly about 700, and they're being distributed more or less equally amongst the various constituencies, on average 50 per constituency. So if there is a need for more in Plaisance, then I would suggest you contact MP/caretaker for the area and make the request, and hopefully it can be accommodated within this room. If not, we expect that later in the year we will get additional supplies and maybe it could be done there as well.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Paragon Farms. Prime Minister, what's going on with MNIB?
Yeah, thank you, Paragon. That's actually a very important and relevant question. We've had some challenges with MNIB, primarily in that we got to the point where, just by way of context and background, we had closed down what I would call the main operations of MNIB. We paid off most of the workers, their severance, pension, etc. The idea was essentially to rehabilitate and create a new entity. The team at the Ministry of Finance and the consultants, the technical working group, did all of the work that would have gotten us to the point where the new business model was proposed, etc. What we've had the challenge with, which is why, in fact, MNIB was in a lot of trouble, is that we've not actually been able to get audited financial accounts from the Marketing and National Importing Board for several years. And so when we go to the private investors to ask them to invest with us into the new entity, the challenge is we have to be able to provide them with the financial history of the Marketing and National Importing Board so they can use that data to make an informed decision as to the extent to which they want to partner, whether it's major, minor, or whether they want to invest 100% or not. And it has been, unfortunately, a very slow, painstaking process to get those accounts because the record keeping was frankly abysmal. We are hoping that we can overcome this soon, and if that happens, we will then be in a position to actually go to market to ask potential investors to invest with us. In the meantime, MNIB has operated on a very skeleton basic status. They continue to import and sell some of the basic commodities like sugar, and they continue to buy produce from farmers and pay them. Thankfully, a lot of the issues that we had before, which is inability to pay farmers, inability to pay staff, all of this has disappeared, and they're able to meet their ongoing commitments without government subsidy. I'm saying subsidy here in inverted commas because the government has actually taken over the loan that MNIB owes to the Grenada Cooperative Bank, and the government is paying that loan directly. If we did not do so, it is likely that they would not have been able to actually meet their what I would call working capital requirements in terms of buying stock, paying for the stock, paying the employees, etc. So the hope is that with the assets of MNIB being free of the debt, with the government having taken it over, we can put those assets into the new entity and then get a private sector entity or entities to partner with us, particularly when it comes to the management, running and operations of the MNIB. And we hope that could particularly help us with the agro-processing sector and aggregating a lot of our small producers and processors who oftentimes can't find markets, or it's difficult for them to both do the marketing and the production side of things. And we can have MNIB playing a meaningful role in as being a what I would call food security aggregator for the nation. So I would probably give a public commitment to provide a more fulsome update by the end of March to the public.
Listeners and viewers, we move to a commercial break. We will be back.
It's like the water pure and clean. It's a comfort anytime you need it. It's for everybody, fresh and green. You can count on us, there's nothing like it. It's homegrown. It's island pure. It's homegrown.
Our beloved viewers, welcome back. You know, if you have any young aspiring lawyers wanting to see what their future could look like, just share the live with them. So now we have Norris. He was in St. Patrick's asking what DMs people would send to the PM if they had the chance. Here's the first one.
Welcome back to the most talked about show in Grenada, DMs with PM. Today, we are on Main Street, Sates. Come with me as we get the DMs from the people.
Good evening, Mr. Prime Minister. My name is Zania Alexander, and I am a student of the St. Patrick Anglican School, grade 6 CPEA class. We planted lettuce and pop choy using organic manure from goats, fowl, sheep, and cow. Based on our findings, we would like to encourage all of Grenada to
eat what you grow what you eat, using organic manure.
Well, I don't think the Minister for Agriculture could have asked for a better advertisement. And he's also the Minister for Economic Development and Planning. So I hope we have permission to use the clip from the students of St. Andrew's, St. Patrick Anglican School, so that we can share that nationwide and encourage the adults in particular to grow what we need to eat and eat what we grow. So there was no question there, but I completely endorse what they've said, in particular the use of organic manure to grow. The pak choy and the lettuce look quite green. Farmer Dwayne, do you endorse the? You endorse really good.
We move on.
For our viewers, Dwayne is in the background. He's a production part of the production. He pretends he's a farmer.
We move on to our next DMs from the street.
So my name is Honor Julian, and I just want to ask the Prime Minister a question. So the question is, why does other children bully others? And what suggestions do you have to make them stop?
Oh, that's a very important question. I think oftentimes when students are bullying others, it probably comes from how they brought up in their home, And usually it's because they themselves have been bullied or they're exposed to violence or other forms of abuse. So that's one of the main reasons why students themselves will do so. Or sometimes they have what we call insecurities, where they have issues with themselves or concerns and they're unable to express it. So one of the things we have to be able to do is to make sure that students are able to talk out aloud or write out or find other ways to communicate it, maybe through painting or drawing, what it is they're feeling, what are the issues they have. The other issue we have to do is try and help them regulate their emotions, because usually bullying comes when people are mad or upset or angry and they express it or themselves the wrong way. So we have to be able to give students who are, or young people in general, who are facing those issues, opportunities so that we can teach them how to react when they're angry, what is acceptable and not acceptable behavior, how to manage their emotions, what are the techniques they used to use, how to walk away from an argument, making sure that they have the right values, because sometimes we think being smart or being strong means being abusive or being domineering or wanting to dominate someone else, and it's not. So it's also important that we openly talk about what is right and what is not right. So those are some of the techniques that has to happen. But the fact that you've asked the question means I hope you yourself is not experiencing any bullying, but if you are, please make sure that you let your parents know. Please make sure that you inform your parents, or if you see anyone else being bullied, please do the same. And if you see anybody trying to bully them, it's also quite a courageous thing to stand up for the other person that's been bullied and make sure you tell the other person that what they're doing is not right.
Thank you. Move on to our next DMs from the street.
My name is Andrea Date, specialist math teacher at the St. Patrick Anglican School. Honorable Prime Minister, you know that teachers are responsible for shaping the nation's future. I would like to know why salary increases are implemented in phases instead of one adjustment. And in the same spirit, we'd like to invite you to visit the St. Patrick's Anglican School.
Well, thank you for the invitation to visit the St. Patrick's Anglican School. Sorry, I'd be happy to do so. I'm not so sure I'm clear on what she meant by increases being implemented in phases, but I will seek to explain the way it happens. The budget is an annual or calendar budget. It runs from January to December, and so salary increases reflect that annual period. The collective bargaining agreements, just more by practice than anything else, normally covers 3 years, and so what would happen is that every 3 years you have adjustments in salaries, and they implemented annually within that 3-year period. If we were to do it otherwise, we run the risk of actually not having a sustainable budget, or we run the risk of having large deficits where we actually spend more than we collect. And once you spend more than you collect, then you would have problems, because it's just a matter of time before the country actually could become bankrupt. So it really matches the budget cycle, which is an annual cycle, and that's quite normal. It's not just for teachers or the public servants. It's almost everywhere you go in the commercial world that salary increases are done on an annual basis. We just today at 10 a.m. this morning signed the collective bargaining agreement between the government of Grenada and the Grenada Union of Teachers. And as our DMs from the street comes from a teacher, I want to take the opportunity to thank the Grenada Union of Teachers and its president, vice president, general secretary, and the other members of the executive team, as well as the Grenada the government negotiating team led by Mr. Bernard Antoine and PS Lyndon Marshall, and others from the Ministry of Finance, the Accountant General, Ms. Teleswood from the Ministry of Legal Affairs for the significant work they did in ensuring that we can have a signed collective bargaining agreement that will cover the period 2026, 27, and 28 for teachers, both for salaries and fringe benefits. Again, thank you to our teachers for the significant role you play in shaping the nation, Grenada.
Yes, of course. We can never overlook our teachers. And I think, Prime Minister, you are the perfect example of the saying, once a teacher, always a teacher.
Yes, thank you.
We have another DM from the streets.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister. My name is Katie Bernard.
My name is Janaya Dixon. At what age would you like to retire?
Oh, I should ask you. Thank you, Ms. Bernard and Ms. Dixon. The question is, retire from what? Well, if it's retire from being the Prime Minister, you know, I did say I was going to do 10 years, so time is flying by. We've done 3.5 years, so let's count. That leaves me with 7.5 years. But retire from work, I don't think I'll ever retire from work, except when I die. Because there's always something to do, there's always someone to help, there's always opportunities to learn. So I don't view work as a burden. I think work is actually dignifying your existence as a human being. So retiring from being a politician, yes, certainly. But otherwise from work, I look forward to continue to work after my political career.
We move forth to another DMs from the street.
My name is Samuel Thomas, and I'm currently schooling at the McDonald College School. My suggestion to the Prime Minister is to level the roads of pasture and to put lights in Plains pasture. I'm currently playing at the pasture, and I recognize that the pasture is very unlevel. I would also like the Prime Minister to put lights in the Plains pasture.
All right, so thank you very much for that. The suggestions are noted, and if my memory serves me correct, I think we expect both of them to be addressed in the coming year. If not, I will certainly go back to your MP to make sure that we have Plains and Rose Hill under consideration for work to be done. We are embarking with the National Lotteries Authority on a series of enhancement to sporting and community infrastructure in the next several months. So certainly we would expect that we can have the opportunity to address Rose Hill and Plains once we can get it done within the fiscal or financial year.
I love that. Young people advocating for exactly the change that they want to see, and straight to the Prime Minister nonetheless. Yes. Folks, we have one more DM from the streets.
Good day, Mr. Prime Minister. I am Drew Collins, a Form 5 student from the Presentation Brothers College. The question that I have for you is, as Grenada moves forward with digital transformation in the various sectors of society, what plans are in place for mass digital education and widespread connectivity for the ordinary Grenadian?
All right, thank you very much. I agree. There actually is a need for widespread mass digital education, even from the very basic functions that those of us who are digitally literate take for granted. In fact, I was being briefed by the Cabinet Secretary, who's the Permanent Secretary with responsibility for digitization, and she was indicating that we've begun training public servants. And within the public service, I actually was a little astounded when our chief IT officer actually indicated that the training starts with basic issues like teaching people how to use the mouse, what the mouse is now. For those who take those things for granted, we just assume everybody knows, but the reality is new knowledge, new technology oftentimes bypasses large swaths of the population. So, and I've seen other examples where we've tried to do basic surveys and so on online using phones where it's very difficult because people simply just are not digitally illiterate. So I think the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of ICT, I would say the National Telecommunication Regulatory Authority, because they're part of the infrastructure, we all have to do a significant work in terms of actually recognizing that we cannot take digital literacy for granted. It is completely different from the traditional literacy. And if we move ahead too fast, without having laid the basic foundation for the digital literacy, we'll be in trouble. That means digital literacy first and foremost amongst our teachers. Because if they are not digitally literate, they will not be able to teach or operate in that environment. It means also having specialist programs for our seniors. Because as more and more government services go online, if they are not trained in it, then we will be essentially cutting them off from access to those services. And obviously, the other challenge with digital literacy and education in general is that technology changes rapidly. We have at Cabinet approved a digital transformation agency. The intent is to create a statutory body that will become responsible for driving digital initiatives, both from a government perspective, but from a wider public policy perspective. And those are some of the issues that we intend to tackle. So we are hoping to get the law passed this year. We are hoping to have the agency up and running before the conclusion of this year, so that we can begin to embark upon the sort of digital mass literacy that we need. We have been deploying Wi-Fi in many public spaces, beaches, parks, all our schools, community centers. We are working with our network providers to make sure that the quality of the connection, the quality of the speed is at the level that could actually support the digital economy and the digital services that we need, but that is always a work in progress. So that's basically where we are currently. And we are hoping that over the next several years, with the formation of the Digital Transformation Agency, that we'll be able to ensure that Grenada becomes a 100% digitally literate society.
And that's important, especially as young persons, we are the ones interacting with the technology. And looking at the current system as it is, there's a lot of red tapes and a lot of, twists and turns that, can make the process slower. So with our systems being digitalized, we as young people, sometimes you're a bit little impatient for change,
yes,
or impatient for things. So I believe that with that digital implementation, we will certainly, it would certainly ease our burdens.
No, well, certainly, and I think it's important for me to say this to the youth of the population. The actual drive to create the digital education, digital literacy, and the digital transformation is not going to come from the older population. It's going to have to come from our young people, because you are the ones who are being born into and with, so to speak, the technology. So, you can't expect my mother or my father, for instance, to be driving digital literacy or digital change, but I certainly will expect my children to, because that's the technology, that's the sort of new knowledge that they have, that their grandparents don't have. So, to your point, one of the biggest challenges with government services is what I call the exercise of discretion, meaning human beings get to choose what to do and what not to do. And in many instances, it means you have abuse of power, abuse of office, sometimes terrible decision making, slow decision making. When you digitize a lot of the services then become available 24 hours a day. And you remove what I call the arbitrary exercise of discretion. If there's a criteria and if you meet the criteria, you get the service. If you don't meet the criteria, you don't get the services. So you should not be dependent on someone looking at you and saying, I like you, so I'm going to do it for you, or I don't like you, I'm not going to do it. And in many instances, we face a lot of that in terms of how government services are delivered and procured. But I think fundamentally, from a productivity point of view, let's take the payment of taxes, for instance. Prior to being able to pay a tax online, you'd have to go to a revenue office physically in person with cash or a check, and you'd have to be there between 8 and maybe 2 or 3 or something like that. Or if the cashier decides to go to the bathroom or go on lunch, sometimes there isn't even a replacement, and you would have taken your time off from work, you get to the office, you can't pay. Now you're frustrated, and then the government loses its revenue, right? But with being able to pay your tax online, you can pay anywhere, anytime, at your convenience. So it makes tax collection itself easier for the government.
Of course.
It makes your life significantly better, because you don't have to take time off from work. It makes you more productive, because you can stay at work and you can pay your taxes on your phone or at home or on your break, as the case may be. So that's just a simple example of how the use of technology and digitization can actually transform and make government revenues better, make our services more efficient, and actually make our citizens more productive in terms of their behavior. But that obviously requires the infrastructure and requires the education. Because, for instance, you would probably pay taxes online, but say my mother, for instance, if she's not trained, if she doesn't have the education, then she will not pay the taxes online, and it means she will still have to go through what oftentimes could still be a difficult process by having to catch a bus or get someone to drop her, go to the bank to get the money, or bring the check, as the case might be, to pay it. So as part of the change comes, we have to recognize that some sectors of the society will want to change fast, and we have to be able to accommodate them, and those that are slower, we still have to be able to accommodate them as we transition.
Yeah, I like to know that these are the steps that we're taking towards overall digital transformation. It reminds me of Singapore, which has established themselves as an entire smart nation through implementing digital literacy into everyday life, from work to community engagement and even youth-led initiatives, so that it makes the digital economy feel less like something that we enter, but more like something that we live in, right? I'm seeing a vision of Grenada being a smart nation within 10 years.
Yes, and remember, there are things we are doing already that we may not immediately see or appreciate the transition, but let's take the delivery of laptop devices and e-books to all our Form 1 and Form 2 students. Come September, the next Form 1 students will be getting in. So in 3 years, you'd have Form 1 to 3, where learning and the tools of learning would have been completely changed compared to 3 years ago. And then in the next 2 years after that, that's a 5-year span, it would mean that every child who came through secondary school would have been provided with a laptop, would have been provided with e-books, and would therefore be able to actually learn in a completely different environment, what I call unlimited learning. Because once you have access to the internet, once you have access to the laptop, with the profound changes that AI can bring, you essentially can engage in self-learning at any time, anywhere, once you're connected. So our potential, and with instilling the right work ethic, the right values, actually for growth, development, and for making sure that our education system becomes global, is really sitting literally in the palm of our hands. But it requires us to make sure that vision is articulated. It requires us to make sure that we embrace it and that we go forward boldly, not timidly, not second guessing, because there really is no alternative. And so I think that's just part and parcel of what we have to see. But it takes time, and that's the point. 5 years from now, we should be able to look back and see the road we've traveled, what we've accomplished, what we've not done right, what we need to improve. But you have to have the plan, you have to have the vision, and then you have to execute.
Absolutely.
Listeners and viewers, we now take a commercial break. We will be back.
My name is Dr. Abigail Noel, and I am the head of department at the Accident and Emergency Department. One thing I love about Mount Sinai is their spirit of collaboration. They came in with ideas that have transformed our department in real time. The implementation of ID bands for every patient that comes through the emergency department. That has decreased patient errors. They have implemented defibrillators on every ward. Thus far, 128 staff members have been trained in defibrillator use. The huddle system is basically small meeting with all team members. It improves communication between staff members as well as with patients. This transformation means everything to the emergency department and by extension the health system of Grenada.
Listeners and viewers, welcome back. We now open up our phone lines. Remember to be brief and to call at the number 423-3104.
You know, Prime Minister, we've been seeing different aspects of you today, right? So from teacher to lawyer to Prime Minister, to dad. And you definitely have a wealth of wisdom and knowledge. So I want to ask a question that I'm sure Tariq, myself, and our audience would love to know. What is something that you are still learning?
I'm still learning AI. In fact, I've just begun. So I will leave that at learning AI. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think that's something we're all still trying to do, really, to utilize it more as a tool instead of having to rely excessively on it. Yeah.
Prime Minister, important is also migration. So you have a caller online. Good evening, caller. Go right ahead.
Good afternoon to you, Prime Minister Dr. Deacon Mitchell. I must first come to you upon your call for 2026, a healthy nation with a wealthy nation. That's a very good platform for the nation to work on. I have a question I would like to ask you. I am a CDB certified food hygiene and sanitization trainer. I need to find out if I need to have a license number from your or to go ahead with my above professional conduct.
Caller, you were not very clear. If you're still online, can you repeat the question?
Yes. I said I am a CDB, which is Caribbean Development Bank certified food hygiene and sanitization trainer. I need to know our consultant on food safety. I need to know if I have to obtain a license in order to conduct the above mentioned.
Yes. I can't answer off the top of my head. What I know is that there is a licensing, Professionals Licensing Act that requires professionals to obtain a license and pay the license fee from the Ministry of Finance. Outside of that, I'm not in a position to give you certified information as to whether there is any other licensing regime. It will probably be best to speak with the Ministry of Health, and they would be able to guide you, because the Ministry of Health is normally the government entity that is responsible for things like issuing food badges and certifying vendors and sellers of food, etc. The other entity may be the Grenada Bureau of Standards, because they also play a role, particularly as it relates to standards. So if you are able to speak to the Bureau of Standards and or the Ministry of Health, they should be able to provide you with further guidance. If after you've done so you're still not clear, then I'd be happy to try and see how I can assist in bringing clarity to the matter. It may be that there may be no regulations granting it. So the way our law works is that if there's nothing prohibiting it, then you can always proceed to do so. But I think before doing so, it may make sense for you to speak with the Ministry of Health and the Bureau of Standards.
Thank you, PM. We have another caller. Please be brief. Hello?
Hi, good night.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening. Yes. Good evening, Mr. Prime Minister. I have a question. I was a police officer for 15 years. So, and I retired 2023. I inquired about my gratuity as it relates to the Police Pensions Act. And I was told that they don't know how to calculate gratuity. So my best bet is to take the government to court. I have made an appointment to have a meeting with you in relation to that, but that was unsuccessful on many occasions. So I'm glad that I have an opportunity to call so that this can be addressed. I would like you to address this concern that I have.
All right, so caller, thank you very much. What I would suggest is that we would take your contact details offline. I'm not so sure who you spoke to that gave that advice, but between the Ministry of National Security, I can certainly speak to the Permanent Secretary and the executive of the police, as well as the Public Service Commission to ensure that there's clarity on the matter. I find it hard to believe that the persons whose job it is to calculate gratuity are saying they don't know how to calculate it. So we'll take your information offline. You can send us a text with your full name and the contact number, and I will arrange to put you in touch with the Office of the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security.
Thank you. Thank you, caller, and also thank you for your service. We move on to another caller.
Caller, can you hear us?
To put you in touch with the Office of the Permanent Secretary of National Security.
Good evening,
Hello,
caller.
Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, I'm calling from Toronto.
Lovely to have you.
Hello?
Can you hear us?
Go right ahead.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay, you can go right ahead.
Yes, I'm calling from Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just calling to basically they discussed about the track and field and so on, and upcoming promising athletes. Yeah, upcoming
Caller,
athletes.
is it possible you could listen to your phone instead of the broadcast that is
Yeah,
being
I
made?
am. My volume is down. Actually,
Okay.
I was wondering what's going on. Yes, I'm
Okay.
calling to basically number one, compliment the government for what they're doing with the kids. I looked at the primary school track and field the other day. I'm a fanatic for track and field because I am a former student of SAS, and I was a really top athlete at that time. That's way back when.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at the growth of athleticism in Grenada.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you look at the kids 7 and 9 under and the times that they are running, some of them, the forms are even better than some of the Olympians, being on top of the run and all of these different things. So I compliment this government for doing this by putting coaches in the school. Because when you get kids doing 60 meters at 7 and under and running 9 and 8, that's big.
Yeah.
And the 100 meters and the 300 meters, doing 300 at that age, under 40 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing. So I want to compliment the Prime Minister and his team for what they're doing.
Okay.
I'm a former coach.
Thank
and,
you.
I've had athletes in Olympics and so on, but that's not important right now.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things the host mentioned is about the psychology of sports.
True.
And I really hope that they would have sports psychologists in Grenada, because it's important. Because a lot of people think that athletes, especially sprinters and jumpers, is all about how good they can jump.
Mm-hmm.
But sports, in its own sense, it's 90-something% mental. It's a very small percentage that is physical. And I notice that sometimes you get good athletes fall starting twice, and that is mental. So I hope that the government would find ways to get some sports psychologists to work with these athletes, because Grenada, as I'm saying here in my family, it's like that's the next Jamaica in the next.
All right, thank you very much, caller. We have another incoming caller. Can you hear us? Callers, can you hear us?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Shiloh and Tariq, I must say that you guys make a wonderful host.
Thank you.
You two of your face just lights up my big screen TV.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Sure, and good evening, Mr. PM. Sorry I didn't say good evening.
That's right. That's what we're here for. That's why we have Tariq and Shiloh. That's the next generation of Grenadian leadership right there. So I was told on the chat that some people are asking why 10 years, because I have people to take over from me after. So
yes, I have a big smile on my face. But Mr. PM,
yes,
my sister Andrea Date, who is a teacher at St. Patrick Anglican School, she called me and she said, Desi, he did not answer the second part of her question. And the question is, when would you be able to visit the school, especially the grade?
So no, I said I would visit. I didn't want to give a date without the benefit of ensuring that the date I give is clear. So I certainly will undertake to do so before the end of the Easter, or this semester, before the Easter break. But I can't give a specific date because I need to make sure that when I give that date, that I actually have the time to do so. But rest assured, I will visit the school.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, ma'am. It is most appreciated.
And we are happy to always put a smile on your face.
Absolutely. We have another caller.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
I would like to speak with the Prime Minister off air, please.
Go right ahead.
Oh, you'd like to speak to me off air?
Off air.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll take your number and accommodate.
Surely. Okay. We'll take one more call.
Hello.
Hello, good evening. Go right ahead.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to my wonderful, beautiful PM.
Good afternoon, sir.
How do you do, sir?
I'm doing all right.
Okay. I would like to have a meeting with you. How can I set up that meeting with you, sir?
All right, we'll take your number offline, and then I will arrange for my office to be able to arrange for you. Are you living in the outer parishes, or you live in St. George's?
I live in Granite.
You live in Grandlands. Okay, so we'll arrange for the meeting to be in St. George's.
Okay, no,
all right. All right, so just simply the same number you call, if you can just send a text to the number with your name and contact number, and we'll follow up. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you. One more caller. Good evening.
Caller, can you hear us? Hello?
Hello. Thank you.
Hello, we're hearing you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Are you
just continuing in terms of the youth. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Go right ahead.
All right. Okay. Good evening, Prime Minister.
Good evening.
Good evening to the two young hosts.
Good evening.
Who are doing a great job.
Thank
so
you.
very quickly, continuing in terms of our youth, I know a few weeks ago on the show you made reference to grandchildren who live in the diaspora getting citizenship. And my question to you is, what is the proposed timeline for a decision with regards to this, please?
All right, so the proposed timeline is to have it addressed this year. We the way this works is it requires us to have the appropriate policy, then we have to make the appropriate changes to the law. Citizenship is law-based, first on the Constitution and then second on the Citizenship Act. Currently, neither the Constitution nor the Citizenship Act permits what we call second-generation persons who are born outside of Grenada to Grenadian parentage to automatically be entitled to Grenadian citizenship. So in order for that to change, we actually would require to change the law. And in changing the law, it means we have to be able to articulate the policy reasons for doing so, then draft the necessary amendments to the Citizenship Act, take that to Parliament for it to be debated in both houses, and then to be able to have it passed. We are hoping that one potential timeline for at least having the draft legislation circulated for review and comment by the public would be the months of June and July. That's when we have the diaspora homecoming, because we want to be in a position where we can get the input from the diaspora on the draft legislation, and then hopefully come after the summer break, September, October, we're in a position to have the law finalized. If we are able to accelerate the timeline, then obviously we will inform the public of this, but usually legislation takes a while because you have to go through a consultation process. You have to make sure that the amendments bring consistency to the law rather than inconsistency, and that we have to be able to be very clear as to who the beneficiaries of the amendment to the law will be, and ensure that we then have the regulations in place to indicate what the actual process is in terms of the paperwork that is required, the fees associated with it, and how the process will work. So all of that requires some stakeholder consultation, legal input from the Immigration and Foreign Affairs departments, from our embassies and consulate offices in London and New York, where the diaspora, the large concentration of diaspora is, including Toronto and so on. So I would say realistically we should have the policy settled and perhaps draft legislation circulated by June, July, in terms of final changes to the law by September of this year, September to October of this year.
You know, PM, you're not much older than me, but I certainly hope that as I continue to get older, my mind stays just as sharp as yours does.
All right, thank you. Well, you're flattering me, that's all. But no, I try to. The truth is, you have to read a lot. That's how you keep your mind active. I think reading is to the brain what weightlifting is like to a weightlifting person or boxer. So if you don't read, then your brain essentially dies. So it's important, I think, for young people to keep our memory sharp. It means you have to be able to read and put your brain to work, and there are other things you have to do. Not poison your brain with toxins and
of course.
And so on. But I think essentially reading and communicating is one of the key things of keeping sharp.
Yep, definitely.
So, listeners and viewers, we would like to, first of all, before we finish tonight's show, express our gratitude to you for your calls, your messages, and of course, your energy. This reminds us of why this conversation happens. Thank you again to our Honorable Prime Minister. Any closing words for our listeners and viewers?
Well, I'm probably going to end on a bit of a sad note. Obviously, as I said, because I had to attend Alejandra's funeral today. There's still another funeral for another young lady who was violently and senselessly and tragically killed. We had International Women's Day on Sunday, and we had a march on Sunday and on the Carnage Lagoon Road. We had a march in St. Andrew on Friday from Progress Park to the Grenville car park. And it's important, I think, for us as a nation to appreciate that the resolve we need requires action, and it requires a significant change in our cultural attitudes to violence and to the relationship between men and women. And if we don't consistently every day begin to make that change, then we are not going to get the outcomes that we want. So for me, it's really an appeal for all of us, and particularly men, because there's no question that's where the troubles start and largely end. For all men, those who are doing better, who know better, to really step up and become the educators, the mentors, the heroes to those men who are struggling with addressing a lot of the insecurities, who are prone to violent behavior, who are unable to regulate their emotion, who are abusing alcohol and drugs and tobacco or ganja, so that we actually can begin to help them, so that they do not continue to be perpetrators of this abusive system that we have. We are all collectively responsible. We can't just say, well, I don't do it. if you know of others who are doing it and we're not making an effort to help them and to help retrain their minds and retrain their ability to behave in a manner that actually protects and uplifts a woman. So I hope if there's a light coming out of these two tragic incidents, that we can begin to consistently, as a society, collectively, take responsibility for what we've created and make sure that we begin to address this in a national and a unifying manner so that Grenada could become a model of transformation on this specific aspect of our socio-cultural dynamic.
All right, and going back to your speech on Sunday at the Give to Gain Power X March, you said it's our time as men to protect, it's our time to defend, and to really glorify the women in our lives. And so seeing you, the Prime Minister, leading from that front for women and girls, that's really impressive and that's admirable.
Thank you.
Very much so.
And thank you to both of you for continuing to do a wonderful job and continue to inspire the young people of Grenada. I hope those who are looking on view both of you as an inspiration and make use of the significant opportunities that are available for young people for empowering themselves, for shaping their lives, shaping their communities, and ultimately shaping Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martin. So thank you.
Yep,
thank you.
That's what it's about. Thank you. That means a lot coming from you.
Join us next time for another edition of DMs with PMs. This is Tariq and Shiloh, reminding you to stay safe, keep growing, and above all else, love. Good night.
Good night.